Hey guys and girls!
This is Vic and I'm Wes, and we are professional mountain bike skills instructors from South Africa. We are also the lead inspirers behind Mastering MTB Skills and Ride Like a Girl MTB Skills.
And this is the start of our YouTube channel. We've been wanting to do this for a really long time, and finally we've found ourselves here, and we're super stoked to have you guys follow our journey. We're going to be sharing some skills, some product reviews, some awesome trails, and we're just going to share the love and fun of mountain biking.
Yeah, and I'd just like to mention a couple of folks who have inspired us to finally get started. Thank you, Liat, here in Cape Town. They really have urged us to get this going, and also to Warren and Melissa. You guys are doing such a great job out there. You have been a really big part in finally getting us to get going with this little adventure. And today, the first thing we're going to discuss is introductions to jumping.
Yeah. Woo-hoo! Let's do this!
So welcome to our introduction to jumping. Before we start, I just want to mention a few things. It's very important to progress your jumping in a measured and principled way. We don't go straight out onto the trails and just start hitting big jumps. We have to dial in a few things easy on the grass before we attempt anything out there big on the trails. I first want to chat about the bike. It's very important that we do have a few things sussed on our bikes. One thing is that we need a dropper seat post. So if you don't have a dropper seat post, you should try and consider lowering your saddle so that you can create more space on the bike in order to unweight the bike correctly. Also, we need to chat about the suspension of the bike. I'm not going to go into a lot of details. However, you do need your suspension to be open. For those of you who do not know what that is, your suspension needs to be working, all right? And if you have a rear suspension, you must make sure that the rebound at the back of the bike is a little bit slower than the rebound in the front. So before we get into the actual jumping of the bike, we need to understand a little bit of theory first. Our bikes have suspension, and this suspension is what allows us to get light on the bike. In essence, it allows us to get the wheels in the air. Something we need to consider though is, how do we get the wheels in the air? Well, it's all about stored energy. If I want to get the bike up into the air, I need to load the bike with energy, and I do this predominantly through my feet. When you look at a full suspension bike like this, you can see that I do have a suspension system. But even if you're running a hardtail, it's very important to learn how to correctly unweight your bike. I have a ring here in the front, and I just want to show you that if you load your bike through your feet, you do also load your front shock with energy, which will give you that rebound potential that you need to get your wheels in the air. Watch over here, I have a little red ring, and I'm going to push through the middle of the bike. Did you see how that ring moved up? My feet and my legs are way stronger than my arms. So when I'm on the bike, I'm really going to give a strong push down through my feet on level pedals, boom, and I'm going to have the thought of pushing this front shock down with my feet. So the first step to jumping is to learn how to load your bike through your feet. This will compress the bike. Whether you're running a full sus or a hardtail, you will load your suspension. And now from here, the important part is to explode upwards, and that is going to allow the rebound to release. And you need to time your upward movement with this release of energy.
So something really important when we're unweighting and loading our bike, especially on the unweight, is we need to make sure we stay in contact with the bike. So in order to do that, the first thing we know is that we need to have a strong, firm grip, and we also don't want our feet coming off the pedals. And this is where we start employing what we call the body wedge. The body wedge is having a firm, strong grip. And then on the upward movement, when the bike unweights, this is where our toes point down and push back on the bike. So what happens is I have an opposing force between my handlebars and my feet, and that way I can stay in contact with my bike on that unweighting movement.
Okay, so Victoria is ready to show us how to utilize what we term the bump jump. We have a little obstacle over here. It's just a PVC pipe which we've cut in half, and we're going to use this little pipe to help us get the wheel in the air. So as you approach this little obstacle, when you're about half a wheel length away, that is where you're going to load your bike down, and then as you get close to the bump, you're going to explode upwards and your wheel is going to bump off of it. That's just going to assist you into a small bunny hop, and it's just there to aid you with the feeling of what it would be like when you get your wheel in the air. Okay guys, so we are now ready to attempt our first small little jump, and it's important that we start on something really small. You can use a training aid like this MTB hopper that we use, or you can find a nice small little jump out on the trails. I just want to take you through the jump itself. With the little bump jump that we did earlier, we were using this little half pipe to help us get the wheel up into the air. Now I'd like you to imagine that this little bump that we were using to get the wheel in the air is at the lip of the jump. And the lip of the jump is literally where the highest point on the jump is, where your wheel is actually going to take off up into the air. We're not going to keep this here. We're now going to just transfer the movement to this small little takeoff. So as your front wheel touches the takeoff, that is when you're going to load your bike. And the second half of the takeoff, this is the upwards movement, the unweighting of the bike, so that by the time your front wheel reaches the lip, it is unweighted and starting to gain airtime. As soon as your front wheel starts gaining airtime, it's important to go up and forwards with your bike. Cool guys, so just to wrap up this whole movement, I'm going to walk you through step by step. As we approach the takeoff, the first half of the takeoff, we're going to load the bike through our feet, pushing our suspension down. As the wheel goes past the halfway point, we're going to extend our bodies up to explode. As soon as the front wheel gets air, we're going to move upwards and forwards with our bike. We need enough speed to ensure the back wheel clears the lip before the front wheel dips. And then as we approach our landing, we're going to look over our front wheel, look for the landing, land, and absorb the impact. Yes.
When landing, we want to make sure that we land really safely. So the first goal is to make sure that we try and aim to land with both our wheels at the same time, and that we also absorb our landing. And the way we absorb our landing is by getting a nice deep bend in the knees and elbows as we land.
Yes.
So now we're going to head out onto the trails and take you through some jumps. We're at Bloemendal in Durbanville, and the guys here have just revamped an awesome flow trail with some jumps and berms. So we're going to head up there, stop at some of the jumps and take you through it.
So we're at one of the jumps on the flow trail. So like I said before, we always split our jumps in half. The first half of the takeoff is when we load our bike, and the second half of the takeoff is when we unweight, explode. The wheel will then come off at the lip and we go up and forwards. Something important to consider when we start jumping out on the trails is to choose the correct jump. Firstly, it's important that the takeoff is as long as your bike. You don't want to do something on a very short takeoff because that'll increase your chances of getting backed. So choose a nice big long takeoff that can fit the length of your bike, a nice flat tabletop so that you can land flat on top. Remember, once we unweight our bikes up and forwards, we want to keep that front wheel up long enough for the back wheel to clear. Otherwise, you might get rolled by the lip. So make sure you keep that front wheel up long enough for the back wheel to clear. Obviously, as we start, we're going to start slower, so just keep it safe. You're just going to land flat on top until you start getting closer to the landing. And once you get nice and close to the landing, that's where you're going to say to yourself, okay, cool, let me just add a little bit more speed, keep that front wheel up a little bit longer, and then you'll probably meet your landing.
Once we've dialed in the takeoff and we start increasing our speed, we'll slowly start making our way towards the landing. And then we want to think of landing into the landing with both our wheels. Now, on a tabletop jump, we have a slight downward angle for the landing. So we have to bring our bike into the landing by extending our arms down and forward. It's also okay to sometimes land with your front wheel first, but we want to aim to land with both wheels together at the same time.
Awesome guys, so that's a wrap for our jump video for today. Remember, there's still a lot more to jumping, especially when you want to go bigger, but for now we believe that if you follow these simple steps, you will definitely start getting some airtime with your bike.
Thanks for joining us on our first YouTube video. We hope you guys learned something today and that you can all head out onto the trails and get those wheels in the air. If you have any questions or comments or suggestions, leave them down below, and catch us on Facebook and Instagram at Ride Like a Girl MTB Skills and Mastering MTB Skills.
Cool guys, see you next time and watch out for our next video. Take care and chat soon.
Bye!
Ew.